On Unfiltered Thoughtloops and Read a Book, a rant. I am your host, Moira Algier, just as perplexingly confused as always. Through unfiltered thought loops, we are solid, immature minds bent in on themselves, noticing nothing outside the cataclysmic echo chamber of their preconceived virtue jerk-off. A blast-off hyperspeed ejaculate aimed squarely at the begging eyes of Twitter raiders, wide and wild-eyed, part chaotic, part vivid, part vicious, completely melting down. Pride, the saying goes before the fall. Too bad we lost the fall in our quest to alleviate the slightest imagined or straight-up manufactured ill. All that is left is vague varieties of pride going before the pride, never falling, merely floating in the forefront of our collective hallucination, where pride perceived as 1,000 trembling gazes from 1,000 trembling followers is of more importance than truth, than reason, than facts, than compassion, than intelligence. Much too bad and much too sad that we, societally, are all so lost within our own safe space virtue-rambling parody of conduct and humanity, that we forgot humility and bravery, that we forgot compassion and duality, nuance and complexity. We traded it for pride, for vacuum and immediacy, gave it all away for virtue, vanity and superficiality, never thinking that we ourselves may be in the wrong. Such a complex organism is society, that our brilliance is being passed off as bigoted supremacy, that mere wishes to remain unsullied, thoughtful, contemplative and true is viewed through a light-bending prism of academic, overcomplicated, overthought and essentially nonsensical gobbledygook, through guilt-laden late-night drunken ramblings on social media hastily gobbled up by followers unerringly attempting not to stay out of the loop, and in so doing agreeing with everything as long as the possibility not to be perceived as bigoted and hateful is there. That is to say, not being perceived as bigoted or hateful towards the wrong kind of people. Yes, we must hate. We must scream and rage and roar at the dying of the light at the coming of the night. We must fix the hollow, burnt-out shelter that is our empty lives through mass release of anger and hopeless frustration by pointing fingers squarely at what we perceive to be the grand enemy of our time, of our day, of our age and of our society, stagnant, dull and boring as it is, was and always will be. Consistently consistent, stable, safe and eternally boring as only a long and drawn-out dinner at Grandma's house may be. Revolution. For the hell of it. Yes, we must hate. Yes, we must scream and roar and rage and demand to be heard, hard and definitive. Frightened by our own shadows, maybe. Yet that may be nothing but proof positive of our terrible oppression, maybe? And when we hate, we do not hate as others hate. We do not bring our passions from a common spring, but from a well of neuroticism boiling underneath our skin and in our sullen, swollen hearts and tongues and eyelids, plastered to our face with cheap reality-distorting reality television and daytime television talk shows, telling us how pitiful we are, is, always will be, maybe, baby. They do not hate as others do. They hate immediately and with the unbridled passion of a one-night stand, unhinged, unfeeling, uncalculated and freaky-deaky beneath the sweat-stained sheets and cobwebbed walls of their safe and comfortable gated communities, where nothing ever touches them but the fractured fragments of their belated, sheltered, severed upbringing and the fantasies and phantasms this brings with it in lonely midnight wanderings beneath the blood-stained moon of their narcissistic tendencies. And there's pride, and there's virtue, and there's prideful virtue and virtuous pride, born from boredom and a swollen, septic need for validation gone mad, gone feverish, gone blind in an artificial reality concocted by ideologues with an axe to grind and a chip on their shoulders, sheltered from the real world and absolutely incapable of inhabiting a social space not made for them and them alone. And so demanding change so they shall feel safe and feel included in a world they do not care to understand through anything but tall tales read from books and dusty tomes written by the same sheltered arrogant bastards that read them. A self-fueling perpetual cycle of hate and mistrust, trickling down from those who deem themselves to be our moral and intellectual superiors. Hidden as equality, masked as altruism, painted as a virtuous, true and noble quest for good and decent goodness and decency, so that all that see it shall be blinded by its light, and so be unable to read what the scriptures say, the dusty tomes, the fractured minds, the sheltered and the hateful ones. And those that are blinded by this light take to social media to spread the light of the Malays, to show how dignified, justified, compassionate and virtuous they are, and do not for one moment stop to think or stop to look or stop to ponder and consider, as that would take away from the immediacy of the event, the knee-jerk emotional goody-goody sensation of being right, of being moral, just and justified in moral, righteous hate and anger. Loaded to the brim with grim sensations of something vaguely unjust, they charge full frontally and unblinkingly, unthinkingly, unknowingly into the fray, battle-ready and grim-faced, proud and perceivably strong and brave and courageous in speaking truth to power. And then, meeting resistance where they do not expect resistance, they falter, they fall, they shake and tremble vividly and tremendously as no one has ever called them on their bullshit before. And they are loaded with nothing but emotive garbage and the feeding force of their echo chambers, their preconceived notions and expectations falling to rot when presented with facts and figures telling truth unspoken by mass media, which would rather mass manufacture mass outrage than accurately report anything at all, as mass manufactured mass outrage sells and money talks, even for hardened anti-capitalists selling branded merchandise to fight the power fantastic. Fucking fantastic. But it feels so good to be right, and so they must be right. Right? Right. Double right. Triple and quadruple right, comrade. Don't let these misogynists, these white supremacists, these homophobic neo-Nazi troglodytes take you down. Just tell them to read a book. A nice retort. That'll show them. That'll give them what for. It does not matter what book. It does not matter. Just say, read a book, as if that sentence in itself brings with it shame and ridicule for the unwashed masses who cannot read, who can barely walk and breathe at the same time. Read a book. How fucking arrogant, how goddamned stupid, how inconceivably rude. Well then, allow me to immediately bring to the forefront of your empty-headed cerebral cortex one iota of truth, as I have seen this argument from the synthetic tribes of the social justice warrior armada more than once, more than twice, more times than I care to count. This is not an argument. This means absolutely nothing. This is nonsensical. Fucking read a book. As if this washes away anything said in contradiction to your claims, you filthmonger, you dung merchant, you snake-oiled salesperson of ill repute. To enter the land of rants for a short segment of my rambling diatribe, we would read books if you and your ilk did not constantly attempt to get them banned, you fearful mongrel bastard of honey-dripping life of luxury and overabundance. What? Should I not make assumptions on your lives? Well, fuck off. Don't make assumptions of me based on my genitalia and the color of my skin then. You judgmental, bigoted, racist, extraterrestrial, busybody snowflakes of vacuous virtue and unharnessed cancerous insanity clothed as equal something or other. Through the wondrous magic of mass-manipulated propaganda, it is considered provocative and controversial to even mention that boys and men struggle in this fragmented dribble and drool society of ours, if not seen through the lens of feminism, where boys and men are painted not as a problem, not as having problems, but as the problem inherent in the system. No wonder boys and men are pissed off when they see, time and again, the same faulty statistics, the same lies and the same peddlers of lies peddling said lies about who has it worse and who suffers and how evil and vile men and masculinity are. And when objecting to this with clear facts instead of frail flights of fancy, it does not matter, and they are not heard nor replied to with anything but arrogant holier-than-thou rudeness from people claiming they are the ones being attacked when attacking an entire gender. No wonder boys and men get pissed off when they are constantly told either that their problems don't matter at all, or that they are the problem by virtue of being themselves. Telling an entire segment of the population for decades that they are not themselves, that their sensations of being manly, of being masculine is wrong, is not them, is but an act. That they are the cause of their problems as well as all other problems. That they have to change in order to save the world. Ridiculing an entire segment of the population when they attempt to bring up their very real problems. Shaming them into quite quiet submission. Laughing at them when they are victimized or when they attempt to bring attention to the suicide rates or to the injustices faced by them in a system which purportedly are set up so only they shall succeed, even when they fall off the grid and drift away eternally and see no help coming their way from the might of the powers that be supposedly there for their benefit and their benefit only. No wonder the state of it all. And then the forces claiming to work towards equality mock and ridicule when attempts to bring up problems faced by other human beings seeking equal treatment as human beings, not accepting facts and figures contrary to their claims, but refusing to listen and refusing to understand based on nothing but the gender and the color of the skin of the people responding to their ridiculous and disproven claims of unequal treatment, washing it all away with incredible contempt and fantastic rudeness, painted as fighting the power and as being the kind warriors for justice for all. All, of course, meaning everyone but boys and men. One can only assume that, since boys and men don't deserve human rights, these forces for good do not consider boys and men to be human beings. Why else would they be so pissed off and so torn apart by a loose-knit movement seeking human rights for human beings? Boys and men, according to the feminist hive mind, according to society, according to our politicians and our teachers and our everything, do not have feelings and are not human beings and as such are not deserving of basic human compassion and understanding. Merely shame, blame, neglect and an incalculable amount of vile rudeness, time and again being told that our problems do not matter, that shining a spotlight on our issues detracts from the issues of women which are clearly more important than the issues facing boys and men. And obviously stating that boys and men are human beings and so also deserving of human compassion and consideration is hating women. Because the feminist movement hate men, so it is only natural for them to project this hatred onto the broader men's movement, telling us in no uncertain terms that a movement for women think like this about men, therefore a movement for men must necessarily think like this about women. Minds bent in on themselves, undoubtedly incapable of viewing anything from a point of view not immediately in front of their eyes or in the midst of their belly button. For a movement claiming equality, the sure as all hell do all they can so that equal treatment shall not come around, so that the issues affecting boys and men shall not be taken seriously. I've spent the entirety of my life reading books. I grew up in books. I spent so much time at the library I might as well have set up camp there. I had friends come visit me at the library. I still read books whenever I can, and always bring books with me, no matter where I'm going. So which book would that be that I should read? Would you vile cretins of phony virtue and solipsist systems accept this as an argument from me? Would you accept me proposing that you read a book as a perfect and permanent solution to our argument? Or would you consider this as nothing but the vague, I am smarter than you peasant, put down and cop out that it is? Read a book indeed. How about viewing boys and men as human beings and treating men and women equally? Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this ramble as well as my other ramblings. Please consider sharing, liking, subscribing and all that jazz. That would help the message, such as it is, be manspread far and wide. Take a look at the links down below as well, if you please. Catch you next time.